Oh, another loose dog. What is this, man? These must all be Jesuit dogs. Why aren't people keeping their dogs locked up? I'm just going to ignore this guy. Why don't they lock the guys up? Goodness, go away. Get off of me. Dogs. Go. Go. God. Go. That dog bit me. God. That dog bit me. Go. Lord, that dog bit me.
I asked Jesus why he allowed that dog to bite me. And Jesus said, this is when I was Skyping with Brent Spiner, he said that was the only way I could let you. He's usually an abuse victim. I'm an abuse victim because Jesus said, your mother and sister are abusing you, Gail. You are an abuse victim. And this was the only way I could wake you up to that. He says, I don't want you to put up with this stuff from them. He said, I don't want you to go over to your mother's place. You don't need to go over there. She's abusing you. And he said, basically, if somebody needs your services, they shouldn't bite the hand that feeds them. And he said, that's why I had the dog. I allowed this Jesuit dog to bite you. In other words, it's not that Jesus did it, but he didn't stop it. He let the Jesuits carry through their plan. And so, yeah, that's exactly what Jesus said. He said, Gail, you don't have any. He says, he was crying the first time that he talked to me through Terrance Jenkins, and he said, Gail, you just don't have any faith that I can take care of your financial needs, and this really upsets me. And I just want you to believe that I will take care of you. And your lack of faith in me just makes me very sad. And this was the only way that I could wake you up to you aren't listening to me, Gail. I've been trying to tell you now for months not to go over to your mother's place. You don't have to put up with this crap that you've been getting from her. And my mother, we're not sure what her motives are for what she's doing. You know, she's under Zack Knight's brain control, so she's not fully aware. I think that she's abusing me, but my sister is aware. And anyways, the Lord Jesus said he's very, very angry at my mother and sister for abusing me. And my sister is just insanely jealous. This is what my men have told me. They've done scans on her, and she's just insanely jealous, and she's just there's just no excuse for her at all. And I'm really, really fearful for her. I've been praying that she'll get right with God, because Jesus is very, very angry with her. And it's not in a good situation to be with God Almighty, very, very angry. He said he's very, very upset with Miss Al and Sandra, and quite saddened about my dog bite. And he just said that this was the only way to get my attention. He said, Gail, you need to stand up to your mother and not put up with this stuff. And don't allow her to poison your mind and make you too materialistic in your viewpoints. See, what happened was my mother was stressing me out, and she was poisoning me spiritually. She doesn't read her Bible, even though she is a Christian, because my men told me she did say the sinner's prayer when we rescued her in 2011 in North Korea, but she doesn't remember any of this. I'll be going into this in my next book, how Hugh Jackman literally risked his life to rescue my mother when there was a 1 million-strong Jesuit army that was trying to annihilate her. And she doesn't remember any of that, because what happened, the Jesuits have removed those memories from her. She's under very, very strong Jesuit brain control. And just, Zack Knight is disgusting. You know, Zack Knight has reinstated crazygail.com. And he, it's a defamatory website. He actually has posts in there that are just out and out lies. For instance, he's got a post in there that talks about my landlord and claims that I murdered my landlord, even though I have supplied photographic evidence to show that the pictures here that he's using that show blood all over the apartment, well, that's not even my apartment. And then we found out later that was Rule 13's period blood. And he's posting that online at this defamatory website, claiming that that was blood shed from my murder of my landlord. My landlord is alive and well. I mean, it's just outrageous. And I did buy some pepper spray, but I only plan on using that for dogs. Because after what happened to me, can you blame me? I mean, I'm lucky. This was a pit bull. He was like 80% pit bull, this dog that attacked me. And I'm lucky that I didn't have worse injuries than I had. Apparently the Lord, even though he allowed the dog to bite me, he spared me from having to get stitches. I was wearing blue jeans, and this dog bit me, and his teeth went through the blue jeans and actually pierced my skin and gave me a pretty respectable injury, as you can see. And if I was not wearing blue jeans, I could very well have required stitches because of the way that dog bit into my leg. The jeans blocked his teeth a little bit, but by the time his teeth got through the jeans, and it was a pretty thick pair, this material was thick. By the time it got through the jeans, he couldn't do me that much damage. But he still managed to get through the material. Apparently pit bulls have sharp teeth. So, and I'm going to see a doctor because I don't know if the dog had rabies or not. He seemed healthy, but I don't know, And I'm not even sure of the street address because the cameras, normally everywhere I go they have cameras so they can get evidence of whatever the Jesuits might do, but my men told me the cameras were out. So the only evidence we had of that Jesuit crime was the recording that I had on me. And so Jesus just said that, Gail, I didn't want you to go over to your mother's, and you've been going against my wishes. You have not been listening to me. This was the only way I could get your attention. And he said, I'm so sorry about the dog bite. But, so he just said that you don't need your mother's. My mother pays me a little bit of money, gas money, to go over to her place. And that maybe gives me like a little extra $100 a month, or some. And Jesus, Gail, you need to trust me with your finances. I can handle this. And he was so upset with my lack of faith in him, he was crying. And he says, this was the only way I could get your attention. He says, do not go over to your mother's anymore. Don't go over there to get abused, verbally abused and mistreated. And your sister, he said, I'm very, very angry at your mother and sister. Very angry. And, it got so bad. My mother poisoned my mind so much and stressed me out so much by all the way she was verbally abusing me when I went over to her place that I took it out on Brent Spiner and got really impatient and started writing law about how to try to get quick fixes for everything. And the law was disastrous. I actually wrote law to try to recreate like a type of Gail android, except not to give them a really strong morality programming. It was horrible. The android tricked my men and put them in a hologram, and they thought that they were married to me and having a big honeymoon, and they were in a hologram. And then when the androids did this so that they could take over Church of Gail, I guess. And then something went wrong with the androids, and they went kaput. And then my men got out of the hologram and realized that they were, for 2 weeks, they'd been in this hologram, and they didn't even realize they were in a hologram, and it was depressing to get out and find out that they weren't married to me, and that they'd been tricked, and that these androids betrayed them. I never would have written that law if I was in prayer. And I have to admit, my prayer and Bible time has not been like it should have been for the past year. And I'm so ashamed of that. And if I was listening to God, I would not have written that horrible law, which I've retracted all that law because it's stupid law. And Jesus says you're not stupid, Gail. He said the reason you wrote law like that is because you got impatient. You wanted a quick fix to all these Jesuit problems. I was just so distressed with my men having to put up with all the penis problems they had in June. And, this stuff sounds crazy, but it really did happen. Zack Knight has advanced technology that is, that doesn't get reported in the mainstream news. And he's a murderer. Murderer, Zack Knight. He's murdered billions in the past year using Nukkake. And you just never hear about this stuff because he controls the news media. And clones have been in existence for a long time, Nukkakes. And sometimes I hear from some Canadians who will say, well, I live here in Canada and we never went through Nukkake. Well, there's several possibilities to explain that. For one thing, Jesuits can remove memories. And the other thing is, how would you know if you've been through the Nukkake? Because everyone who was in it died. You know what I mean? The ones who survived would have their memories removed. Or else there's another possibility, and that is you could be a clone and you may not even know it. Zack Knight has got the technology now where he can create clones and insert the memories of another person into your brain so that you don't even know you're a clone. So this person could, of course he's not going to know about the Nukkake in Canada. He might be a clone who might only be about 3 months old, which means, the Nukkake happened in 2011, but he's got false memories inserted into his brain. Zack Knight's technology is outrageous. That he can murder billions and get away with it. The news doesn't even report it. He puts up a lying, defamatory website that lies and claims I'm a murderer and that I murdered my landlord. My landlord is alive and well. I mean, it just, do not believe anything at Crazy Gail. My men and I have nothing to do with that website. That is Zack Knight's website. He's a murderer. He's murdered 1 billion people at least in the past year using Nukkake. The Jesuit order needs to go down. And you see what he did to me with this dog, and he thinks it's funny. Zack Knight thinks it's funny. This was a pit bull, and I'm lucky that I'm not in stitches, okay? Zack Knight thinks it's funny. And then he murders 1 billion people in the past year using Nukkake. And anybody out there who says the Jesuits didn't do that, you're either a Jesuit yourself or you're brainwashed, okay? My men, we've been having a time dealing with Jesuits. My men have told me that the Jesuits have been launching Nukkakes all over the world. They've murdered billions. It's disgusting. Zack Knight's a murderer. He's a liar. And as you can see by how he treats me, he's ruthless.